Okay, welcome to This Walking Life, the director's commentary.
This morning we'll be walking from
Blackburn
Station to Mitcham
station to Mitcham station,
Mostly taking a bit of a
and
scenic route.
I'm going to do something slightly different.
Let's go.
For this one, I'm going to watch my edit in real time and fix up any mistakes while we're going along. So if there's a little bit of disparity and mismatch between the commentary and what you're seeing on the screen, that's why. Just catch up now. So the purpose of these directors' commentaries, for those that haven't listened to the first two, and because these are so long, maybe that's a good thing. But this is really for my benefit first and foremost, so I can really watch carefully the footage and review the footage and the audio for these early episodes. I don't know if I'll be doing a director's commentary for very long, in terms of like every week. They're serving a purpose at the moment, and maybe they'll evolve into something different. But the first director's commentary was all about filling in the viewers, for anyone who's interested, why this channel exists, and going into how it sort of came into being, why I decided to have a go at it. The second director's commentary was a little bit more technical. I was chatting about the creative choices I was making in terms of how to brand this channel, the shooting style, the editing style, the music. Have I talked about music much? I don't think I have. Anyway, so this third director's commentary, my intention is to talk a little bit about that's right, I just had to pause there because I just had to remind myself what this director's commentary is about. So the audio and the footage are going to be a little out of sync. Anyway, what is this third commentary about is, even though this goes for 2 hours, this particular video clip, what will this channel be presenting visually? I mean, we're walking around Melbourne and we're going to be walking endlessly around the suburbs. I might have touched on this in the first commentary, but no, I've already talked in the first video about, well, there's a lot of walking videos, and there's people walking down streets in hot tourist spots in Southeast Asia, or I've found quite a lot in Melbourne already, people walking down Doc Swanson Street. And it just sort of strikes me as people watching, isn't it? It's no different to sitting in one place, a cafe or a pub or a beer garden or picnic races, but you're people watching. And it struck me that these walking content videos are a little bit the same. You're sort of you're being taken down a street, you don't have any choice about what you're looking at, but there's people walking past the camera or around the camera, or in busy places, cars and scooters screaming by or passing by. But what struck me was that there's possibly a niche for my walking video content for this particular channel, that there's going to be more to it for the viewer and the viewer experience than just a camera being held by a person walking down a street. And it's not my intention to walk down suburban streets. Today's the middle of October. It's Friday the 16th of October that I'm recording this audio commentary, and Melbourne, Australia is still in one of the hardest COVID-19 lockdowns in the world, and we're all going potty. Well, some of us are, and anyway, the strain is beginning to show. The general public's, we're ready to bust out of our 5-kilometre travel limit zones around our residential area, home. Like so many places in the world, our city is well locked down. I haven't been into the middle of Melbourne for 3 months, which I really miss. And just the idea of not being able to go where you want to, when you want to, yeah, it's a bit odd. I didn't think it would bother me personally, but it is starting to grate a bit. And one of the results is that since the 1st of October, I've been putting up videos of my local streets. So that's why there's been a focus on streets and train stations, all the places I like to walk around Melbourne. But going into the future, and as this thing progresses and evolves organically, it's my intention to add something different to the normal walking video content, because Melbourne offers a lot for visitors and residents alike, and we do feel pretty proud of the fact that we've got so much culture, sport, tourism, and the arts. Now, one of the things you'll find, and I'm speaking this commentary is basically for people that don't live here, and I'm not really thinking of Australians in other states as I'm talking, unless you've never been here before. But these comments are ostensibly for people that have never been here, or have been here but not for many years, maybe decades. Want to see how the place has changed. Want to watch, hoping that one of their favourite spots might pop up, or maybe you're a cricket tragic and you want to see something about the MCG. And this is sort of leading into what I think this channel is going to be offering. Is my plan is, once we can break out of our limitations travel-wise in our own city, is to not necessarily go to tourist spots and walk around tourist spots, but it's to go and participate and create immersive video content experience at any number of Melbourne's well, they are world famous, world renowned sporting events or cultural events, or just something as simple as right now I'm thinking about the Christmas period, where there's many well-known spots in the suburbs where residents go to a lot of trouble to dress up their streets and their front yards and their lawns and their gardens, and people drive from everywhere to look at all these lights and displays, and that's quite a community thing. And then we've got a very well-known commercial retail window display in the centre of the city. So these sort of things where you're not sort of just watching bland content of a camera pointed in the street, but you're sort of travelling around with the camera, and the camera is your eyes and possibly ears, where you can virtually participate in these things that Melbourne offers. And why am I doing this? I love Melbourne. What's the first thing any of us do when we have a visitor from overseas? We put them in the car and drive them around to all these places that we think are pretty crash hot. I was going to say something else then, but so that's the plan. So like our calendar is just absolutely full to the brim with events, month after month here, and you can never get bored living in Melbourne. There's always something to look forward to, and if you find yourself scratching for something to do, we obviously you're not trying hard enough, because there's always something to do here. So being October, and I'm talking about a normal calendar year, not a COVID calendar year, but in 2 weeks we'll have the Melbourne Cup, and the whole city shuts down for a public holiday. And I think this year the last thing people want to do is shut down for a public holiday. They'll all be happy to be at work or doing whatever they're doing, or at least be out of the house. Anyway, so sticking to the theme of a normal year. So there's the Melbourne Cup. And then a couple of weeks after that, what is there, early in December, I can't remember. Anyway, then we roll around into Christmas, and then 2 weeks after Christmas is the Australian Tennis Open. About a week after that is, or a couple of weeks after that is a Formula One Grand Prix, which is lately starting to crash into the same calendar dates as the Australian rules football, the opening day of the season, and then there's Anzac Day, and so if you can get my drift, that my plan is to not just aimlessly walk suburban streets or city streets and say, well, here's a video of a camera walking down the main drag of Melbourne or crosstown Melbourne. There's going to be a purpose behind every video. There won't be any talking while I'm filming. It's really an immersive, hopefully an immersive experience. And I'm just looking at the footage. It's taken me 10 minutes to get off the platform, and above, that can't be right, and above the train station at Blackburn, I feel sorry for anyone who's going to sit online and listen to me talking for 2 hours non-stop. Anyway, that's what it's all about, I suppose. So yeah, that's the idea. Without being a virtual reality filming exercise, and there's plenty of those guys starting to emerge in terms of VR, augmented reality, but this is just the style and the personality and the brand that I think I could develop and offer. And I'm not creating a 2-hour video because I want people to watch for 2 hours, because they won't. Let's face it. But the great thing about YouTube is you can click through, you can click forward, you can put it on maybe at night. Maybe this might send you to sleep in a helpful way. But that's the plan. Is to integrate this content that I'm creating with the live events calendar of Melbourne. So say, let's go through a couple, for example. So say, the most immediate one coming up is the Melbourne Cup. So basically, I just go general admission and go in the morning and create that experience of going to the Melbourne Cup, being part of the crowds and the build-up and the dressing up, and because people love dressing up here to go to their own local event. It's a real outing to be amongst that, to capture that and try and. So that's why there won't be any commentary, is to capture the sights and the sounds, and it's a televised event, but it's become so packaged and so corporate and so contrived, and it's full of personalities and and all the big corporate players fly in, all these people and guests and celebrities and actors and whoever, corporate types from overseas, and all the sheiks come from from the Middle East with cheer on their horses. We never see them, of course, those Saudi sheiks. I'm assuming they're here to watch their horses firsthand. But that'd be the idea, is to go along. It is fun to go to the Melbourne Cup in the general admission, wander around the crowd. So my plan for the Melbourne Cup is to go early in the morning and have enough resources on me in terms of battery and SD cards that I'll stay, or maybe leave and go back for the end of the day, because sometimes the end of the day is even more fun to watch, because it does get a bit messy with the crowd. Everybody loses their shape, and it can be fun to see that as well. But there's two sides to it. there's the really dressed up schmick side where everyone's excited, and then there's the people who've spent far too much time in the sun, lost far too much betting, and had far too much to drink. It does get a bit messy, and to capture all of that, it wouldn't be something that I'd film from start to finish and make it this epic 6 or 8 or 10 hour video. No, maybe just my aim is, I think I've already found a comfort level that these videos would be no more than well, this one that we're on now, that I'm commentating on, it is 2 hours. I think it's 2 hours 20 minutes. Let's just have a look. It's just shy of 2 hours 20 minutes. Now that's longer than that's longer than a Martin Scorsese movie, but the 2 hours would be the absolute limit, because I'm actually finding that from a production point of view, to get up in the morning and film a 90-minute or 2 hour video, it actually just works, and it's a decent length, and what I'm finding is that that then gives me the opportunity to chop it up into parts, whether that's 2 halves or 4 or whatever, and the shorter ones. So this is trying to tap into the idea of repurposing content more than once, making use of it multiple times. It just makes sense to not rehash it, but yeah, just offer a different slice. That not that you're trying to trick people, that you're trying to say, well, all right, well, you didn't like the long one, well, here's just have it in bite-sized pieces or smaller pieces. Now 15, this thing's been going 15 minutes now, and I'm relieved to see that I've managed to get further away from the station in 5 minutes than I did. It took me 10 minutes to get out of the station. The next event would be the cricket. Now the other thing is that all right, we're in a COVID environment all around the world, and Melbourne's no different, of course, but because our state government has been so, I'm going to say that they've been so successful in bringing us back from some pretty terrible numbers. In August, we had a day where we had 725 infections in one day, which compared to America, India, Britain, France, Spain at the moment, Italy's having a horrible resurgence. Australia's doing extremely well, but unfortunately Melbourne, we've done the worst out of the whole nation. But having been through this hard lockdown and coming out of it, the word is, the whisper is around the newsrooms and talked about in the media, is that we will be able to go to the Melbourne Cup and the MCG for the Boxing Day test this year. And for any international listeners that have no idea what the Boxing Day test is, well, that's another reason to tune in. So that's my next plan. Mark that down on the calendar. The same strategy. Just make an immersive video content experience of what it's like to head out to the cricket on the morning of Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. It's a huge, not just sporting event, it's really a life rite of passage event for, or maybe I'm going a bit over the top with a rite of passage, but it is a cultural touchstone for so many of us that live in this city, and I'm delighted constantly. I'm constantly saying to myself, I'm very lucky to live in Melbourne. We've got so many things on. That was something I did in my 20s. I would often go to the MCG by myself for a full day. Back in the days when you could take your own food and drink in. It's the best way to spend your summer holidays if you're not going away anywhere. So again, an immersive experience there. The other events, the Australian Open, the Formula One. And now with the Australian Open, my plan is to go also. Oh, I thought my phone was in. My plan is to also go to the Australian Open qualifiers in December. COVID restrictions permitting. That I have an idea for making the content even more immersive, but I'm not gonna talk about the idea that I've got, because I've got a meeting next Tuesday with somebody in the sports media, and I haven't yet pitched this idea, so I'm going to keep it to myself for the moment. But that sort of leads me into, I think that's a natural progression, but I can go into a slight segue, that this video content is not just going to live on YouTube and wait for people to discover it. It's not just going to sit there chatting constantly with the algorithms on YouTube, and the two of them can work out the best way to get this stuff seen. The strategy is to market this content towards commercial stakeholders, to build relationships with them. And the reason being is that I think that there's got to be more to creating content than just putting it up there. So, say for example, the first video that I put up for this channel was walking from Blackburn to Surrey Hill Station. Now, what my plan is to do with that, so as an example, is what am I going to, who am I going to market and promote this content to? So I'm going to, so in Box Hill is a technical and further education institute, Box Hill TAFE, and they get many international students, and there's quite a few secondary schools around my suburban area that also take international students, and there's also international students that live in these suburban areas that study at other universities in other suburbs. So my plan is to be pushing out emails to the international student recruitment teams, to the marketing teams, to the communications teams, to Study Australia, and what's the other one called? And just say, look, there's this video content promoting safety and promoting how easy it is to walk around, get around these suburbs without public transport or without Uber. Maybe recruiting agents that are based overseas might like to, because for any parents that are worried about the areas that their kids are going to be living and studying in, that they can review these videos and see how built up they are and how safe they are, and the amenities that are around. Now another thing that came to mind today on the topic of promoting is naturally this type of video content and the fact that it's going to be footage of so many sporting and tourism related events. Well, it makes sense to push it out to tourism stakeholders. About 20 years ago, I was handling media and marketing for a niche tourism business in Sydney. And I won't mention their name because they don't actually exist anymore. But it got me thinking. So just on the topic of what else. Before I get on to tourism and other things, just finishing off the topic of, well, besides sporting and cultural events, what else can I film? So, what other areas? Well, the first place I'm going to go when I can get out of the 5 kilometre limit of what's been placed on us is just get some footage of Melbourne's docklands, which not many people know about. Even people that live in Melbourne rarely go there, but it's been like many industrial areas in London and Liverpool and Leeds and Ireland. It's been transformed into a residential area. Now, one of the great things that's starting to occur is that I've only been up and running just over 2 weeks with published videos. Well, barely, less than 2 weeks actually of published videos, and I've already got feedback in the form of comments from other YouTube users, not YouTube content creators, but YouTube users. Somebody living in San Francisco saw yesterday's video and just left a comment, and I went into his library and catalogue of published videos, and I thought it'd be a good idea to demonstrate to him that I really made an effort. Instead of just opening up a video and just putting a bland, meaningless comment, I went into his library and I went all the way back to his first ever video that he published, and it was actually some graffiti street art in San Francisco where he's based. And it just naturally struck me, and I sent him a return comment to say thanks. And then I said, we've also got in Melbourne, we've got a famous precinct of laneways that's marketed to international tourists, not just international students, but because it's so close to the centre of Melbourne and our CBD transport hub, that a lot of people go walking up these bluestone laneways, taking photos of all this graffiti art on all these building exteriors. So I sent him a note to say, are you interested in seeing some video footage on my channel, This Walking Life, of that art? And he came back straight away and said, yep. So that's another plan, is how to hook into what people want to see, is to really not just ask people what they want, but to maybe just take the time to take an interest in what content that person commenting likes to see themselves, to see, well, what generated that interest, which then prompted me to put up a little post on LinkedIn. So this is how my mind works in terms of trying to find linkages between content and then ways of getting it out. So I'll just read this. I wrote on my post on LinkedIn this morning because I was able to act on it straight away, and I can see I'm just halfway. So I'm just looking at the footage. I should be watching the footage of the edit actually, but I haven't been. I've been daydreaming. So we're at the 28-minute mark, and I'm on the footbridge over Whitehorse Road. And I've got to be careful here not to jump off topic too much, but there's also a reason why I deliberately stopped on the bridge and filmed that construction site, but I'll get to that in a minute. Or maybe in the next commentary. So the post that I put on LinkedIn this morning, because there's no point, as I said, there's no point, I can't see any point just publishing the content and letting the content and the YouTube algorithm just sit down and have a quiet coffee and chat amongst themselves. Like, you've got to let people know that this stuff is there to look at. So I wrote a post on LinkedIn this morning, and I wrote, if street art is your thing, Melbourne, Australia has some world-renowned famous street art. Pending changes in Melbourne's not so well famous 5-kilometre travel limit, Wise Words Media and Calumny Films plans a tour of Melbourne's famous Hosier Lane during spring 2020 as soon as next week. Let us know. We don't need many excuses to escape our 5-kilometre zone into the CBD, helter-skelter, well away from our 5-kilometre zone to film it and feature it on our newest content channel, This Walking Life. In other news, Wise Words Media and Calumny Films has today confirmed that toilet paper supplies in Melbourne's eastern suburbs remain at satisfactory levels, which was a way of trying to, in a roundabout way, say that yesterday's video that I published finished in the supermarket and finished at the toilet paper stack. It finished off with a reference to this bloke's YouTube channel and San Francisco street art. It had a link to yesterday's video and then a link to an article in the Melbourne Age yesterday about the 5-kilometre limit possibly being removed this coming Sunday in 2 days. So I suppose this is an example, or maybe I'm just doing something within the bounds of what other content creators do, which is to try and promote their content on their social media profiles. I got that up on I've got 2 LinkedIn profiles. One summarises all my creative side. That post has had 28 views today, which is I'm not really getting I'm not really thrilled with how much attention my posts are getting on LinkedIn these days. It's actually quite poor. And I got it up on Facebook. It's probably about the same. I don't really have you probably heard me rant and rave in the first video about my lack of I just don't like social media. But I still use it. Oh, there you go. I posted this on my corporate profile, and the post has only had 2 views in 7 hours, which is pretty hopeless, really. But that probably says more about the people in my network, that they just don't want to know about these sort of things. But I do put it up there because you can use these in a constructive way. These, I'll just click into the Facebook, and I'll just see the video is still on the construction site, which is fine. That particular construction site, it used to be the headquarters for a major suburban newspaper production facility, and it housed journalists and a print facility, distribution centre, and it was for all over Victoria. I don't know if they printed for southern New South Wales or the edge of South Australia, but they might have. It was a huge place anyway, so it shut down in the early 2000s, about 2000, maybe 2005 at the very latest. And that block, and here's a bit of local history for you, that block has, and this is still in Blackburn, it's just up the road from the station, this block sold at one stage, I think, because it was all demolished, and it was just land and vacant land, and it was sold, I think it was 12 million, and then it was sold again for 18 million, and then that owner turned it over and it sold for 23 million. Now I can't tell you the timeline because I didn't commit anything to memory over the years, but it's all publicly available information if you did your Google research. It's 160 Wattles Road, but 23 million it sold for, and then those owners sat on that land, and it was only last year that suddenly there was movement in terms of development, and this all started, the excavation and whatever, maybe I don't know, in the last 2 to 3 months. Not because of COVID at all, just it's too big a project. It was just probably went through hell in terms of planning process. But you can see, so the plan is there's going to be there was some delays, and maybe the reason it got sold to the current developers because they wanted there's going to be 3 towers, I think, between 8 and maybe 16 stories high, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be 4 towers now. So you can see the foundations. There's going to be a very deep car park there. The rumour is, well, it's not a rumour because on the hoardings facing the street, it's advertising for a retail supermarket opportunity. So one of the big chains will go in there, and Blackburn has had 3 such developments. So just to the right, just see the bus going. See where the intersection is. You see that white building on the corner. That went up this year. The construction commenced. There's a primary school on the other side of that bridge, and I had to be very careful because I didn't want to film any kids. But kids went back to school last week, and I can't. I'm too scared to even film an empty primary school, so because I don't want YouTube banning the content. That's looking east. And as I wheel back around to go down the ramp towards the west, yeah, that property that I highlighted on the corner at the traffic lights, the white facade that was on the old Blackburn police station, which was vacant for decades, not just years. And so that's one of about 3 that have gone up in Blackburn. So yeah, our neighbourhood here has changed so much in the last 4 years, so much. I've been a property owner here for 30 years this December, and I've never seen so much change in such a small suburban area. It's just incredible. So you can see 150 visitor car parks. I mean, the traffic through that intersection is just going to it's going to be the traffic is just going to bank up in all directions because it is a thoroughfare north and south and west to east, in and out to the city. So as a local resident, maybe I'm sitting pretty where the property prices might be positively affected in 20 years time after we all recover from COVID. Anyway, so what was I talking about? It was the posts to social media, and I'm just looking at my post onto Facebook this morning. I've got a very small following. I'd be the last one to try and make out that I had great social media presence and it's only 13 people reached. But I suppose it's a case of like, the platform's there, and especially, like, I've never liked using social media just for the sake of using it. I've always been one to use it when I've got something to say, and that's worth saying. So after that LinkedIn post, before that LinkedIn post, so this is still on the topic of, what is this channel? What is this channel? What's the content plan and strategy? What type of content am I going to be creating? What is it about Melbourne that I'm going to be showcasing, highlighting, as opposed to just aimlessly walking around the streets? Well, last night it occurred to me that this walking channel content, in a way, does. It's in a way it's tourism content as well, and already it's been speculated in, and I was just saying to my sport committee contact in an email yesterday that and I've been saying it since March actually, but there's never been a better time to grow an audience and create content, because people literally are, and we are around the world. We're all locked in our homes. We're all nobody can go to work. Kids can't go to school, so online learning, online entertainment, online content. And this is where I got the idea about walking around, the Australian Open qualifiers and the early rounds of the Australian Open. People are going to be locked when people are not going to just be locked in Australia, that we can't leave, that our borders are closed. People are going to be locked out for God knows how long, maybe more than 12 months, maybe 2 years, because the borders won't magically flip open if and when a vaccine arrives. Like, it still has to be distributed and take effect, and people are going to have to be screened and maybe have travelling COVID medical certificates to get them into different countries and zones, and or they, especially if their country isn't part of a what the term that's growing in familiarity now is travel bubble. So it occurred to me that, based on a news story that came out maybe a month and a half ago, you might, if you're familiar with Melbourne, you might not be familiar enough to know that one of our biggest tourist attractions, just outside of interregional areas down the coast, is Phillip Island, which has not just the Formula One motorbike Grand Prix, but also the Fairy Penguins, which are incredibly popular for anyone that lives here. You've got to go and see them once in your life. But it's also on the well-worn tourist trail. So knowing that the Penguins have their own virtual live streaming platform, that popped into my head yesterday, and it made sense to dig up some old contacts that we have in Victoria. We've got 11, 12 regional tourism areas, bodies. So my plan is to touch base with them, and this is just off my own bat. I'm not going to be too coy about it, because good luck to anyone that thinks they can also have a crack at this. But with our tourism industry decimated, and when are we going to see a plane load of tourists again? Touchdown in Melbourne. So it seems to me, and the same as the tennis and the Australian Open, is people are still going to be hungry for content online about these events and these tourist attractions. So my plan is to market this channel and say, well, look, I'm creating content for people that are hungry to see the tennis, or hungry to see the Melbourne Cup. Well, so what I'm going to email these tourism bodies, and I'm daydreaming. I should be watching should be watching the edit that I've spent all day creating this third director's commentary, and I'm not. I'm just watching everything but in this room here at home, at the home office. So I can see I've made it down Cottage Street, and I've passed over the train line, which was taken out 4 years ago. That's all new, and I filmed all that. So more on that later. But it makes sense to me to touch base with all these regional tourism bodies and say, look, have you got any small tourism operators or medium-sized tourism operators? Does anyone want to explore, or are they already exploring and they don't know how to implement it? Do they want help with making a virtual tour for people overseas? Because I'll tell you a funny story. like I'm thinking a lot of people, I wasn't sleeping that well the last, well, most of this year. But when the US Open and the French Open was on, I was taking full advantage of being able to watch that online with one of our traditional TV channels here. But I also had YouTube. I also had YouTube running one night, and while I was asleep, it clicked over. Somehow, it clicked over. It clicked over to this kid in Florida. I've got to find it. Where is it? I've got to find it because I've referenced it in one of my emails to the regional tourism people. In fact, I'll read you the email after I find this link. There's this young kid in Florida, an American kid. He's 15 or 16, and he goes to Disney World every weekend by himself. He walks around, and I'm not laughing at him. I just find that how society's evolved. That we take pictures of our food and put it up on the internet. People take pictures of their cats, and people watch cat videos. I mean, good luck to this young guy, because he actually is how he's an ingredient of how I came up with this recipe for this product, for this walking content channel. That this young kid, he goes to Disney in Florida every weekend by himself, and he walks around Disney on a predetermined route, and he walks the same route every Saturday and Sunday, and he live streams it, and he gets on all the rides, and he commentates the whole live stream, and he answers all the interacts with all his subscribers while they're commenting on his chat box window. But he stops talking while he's on the ride so that they can enjoy the ride experience. Now, when I mean, who would have thought, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, even last year, who would have thought that a kid who just simply had to get up and go to to go walk around Disneyland by himself. Now he's got 5,000 subscribers, and he's got people watching from Europe, and not just America, Europe, and he's got people saying, can you go on this particular ride? But it's very interesting. Now, I'll tell you, so this is where what he's doing hooks into what I think will be the success of this channel, is because people want to see, and I'm one. They want to see the rides, but I don't want to see the rides. I am gobsmacked at how deserted Disney is, because we all know how famous Disneyland is, especially the original one. And he just like this. It's really interesting watching him walk straight up without waiting to sit down and start the ride. There is no one there, and the people that are there, they're either wearing masks or they're not wearing masks. Depending on their personal belief about COVID. It's fascinating to watch, because this is an outrageously momentous time in history to be living through, and I would never have purposely gone looking for a live stream hosted on YouTube of a kid walking around Disney. But there you go, he's doing it, and he's succeeding in getting people watching it. Now, so if you can transpose that product, that interest, that effort over to Melbourne, that's part of my evidence to think, well, surely there's people around the world that they want to see the Melbourne Cup. They want to see it on the ground. Now, will I be live streaming? I haven't decided yet, because there's an investment I have to make. I don't have a smartphone. I don't want a smartphone. But if push comes to shove down the track, and that's what I need to create the product that gets people watching, which then becomes revenue, which then becomes an income, however large or small. that's the plan now. So I've drafted out this letter, and actually the query to the tourism bodies in regional Victoria is that it relates to virtual tourism live streaming, and I'm researching this space and I'm looking for their insights. And it's a concept. The concept that I've got in mind is similar to Live Penguin TV, Phillip Island, Disney World live stream, and then of course mine. Now, my other thoughts on this topic, I was able to put them into a more intelligible format yesterday in an email, but it's produce. Well, I'm in a period where I'm still producing, testing, premiering, and publishing new short form video content and new long form video content on YouTube, and as I said in my first commentary, like, the beauty of doing this, creating this content, is that it gives me, with my model of operations, I can have more control of what I produce, create, and publish through my own efforts without relying on other people, which has been a big issue for me throughout my creative projects over the last 15 years. What else? But I think by doing all this off my own bat, going to the Australian Open, going to the cricket, going to the Melbourne Cup, it gives me a chance to build up skin in the game where I can produce really tangible results in terms of published content and then stats and data behind that published content. But what I really believe is that with the comments and the political comments around international travel making it somewhat impossible at best for the whole of next year, it just makes sense to me that regular visitors to the Australian Open and the Australian Open qualifiers, those people who can't get here, who would always come here or who were planning to come here next year, will be driven towards online coverage to satisfy their tennis fix or their sporting fix or their Melbourne fix. And even more so if crowd numbers attending these events are regulated and prohibited. And that, which means any and all content on the tennis or the cricket or the Melbourne Cup or the Fairy Penguins, whether that coverage is national or international in its its audience outlook, surely that is going to benefit more than ever. So that's the thought. So my plan is to leverage all these things around the Grand Prix, the Melbourne Cup, as I said. So yeah, in a nutshell, and with easily over an hour to go on this commentary, that's my plan. So I've got some emails ready to go, and I can see I'm only halfway down. I'm only halfway down to Nuttawading now. I still haven't hit my first train station. Actually, this is a good point. This will give me a chance to sort of explain how I got into this filming. It'll take me a couple of minutes to get to walk around and over this bridge. So 4 years ago, the level train crossing at Blackburn that crossed over the roadway was dug up, and the rail line was sunk 10 metres, so the trains could pass under the road. On the argument that the level crossing caused too much congestion and was far too dangerous. So yes, it caused congestion, but the congestion hasn't gone, because on the northern side of the train line, barely 20 metres past the level crossing where it used to be, is a roundabout. And you can't smooth the roundabout, and so the traffic hooks around to the left or the right. If it goes right, if it goes left, it goes straight past the train station and then curls around another bend. And if you turn right at the roundabout, then you've got to swing left after another 20 metres. It's like a Grand Prix track. And in my first car, I used to drive on it like it was a Grand Prix track. So as I was in between jobs, and before I was taken up with the full-time care of both my parents, it occurred to me that this little video camera, this digital handheld camera, took captured footage and audio of a quality that I realised that it was worth having a go. And so I set myself the task of spending anywhere between 8 to 14 hours a day filming the works going on around the removal of the level crossing. But as you can see, they've had to dig a trench well away from that Blackburn village precinct. I filmed all this. This was sort of the border of where I filmed. Like I filmed from this area in the east, back west direction towards Blackburn, down towards Box Hill, and I ended up filming for all of July, most of June, and most of August, and I did it all myself. But rather than commentating as myself and what I was seeing and capturing, I created a mockumentary type character who tried to pass himself off as a public transport infrastructure consultant, because these works are going on all around Melbourne. You see, all of our state government got into power, the current one, about 5 years ago, and one of their mandates they took to the election was, we're going to remove as many level crossings in Melbourne as we can on all the different train lines, because fair enough, so many of these crossings, with how big Melbourne has suddenly become in the last 5 to 6 years, that the roads are clogged, where traditionally they used to be very busy. And then there's the whole lifestyle aspect of, so many kids get driven to school now and picked up, whereas when I was growing up, you took yourself to school, you brought yourself home from school. That just doesn't happen now, which accounts for a lot of traffic as well. So as a character, as opposed to being me, it gave me the freedom to comment and commentate and offer opinion on what I was seeing in front of me. And the character was created to deliberately come across as being not a fool, but just somebody who really wasn't, who's sort of like a kick behind the play, like had all the right jargon and all the right contacts and all the right, it just wasn't actually he just wasn't actually in the thick of the action. He was always observing it, but he was a middleman between the construction companies that were contracted to do those works around Blackburn, and then he was the liaison between the private company he worked for and the state government. And I was able to put to use a short film script that I wrote on that topic, but completely unrelated, a few years before. And I was able to create conversation and topics to talk about around those characters, about 14 characters in that script. And it worked well, and then I realised I could pretend to have a film crew, and I'd be talking to them as if they were behind the camera, and that created a bit more energy, because I just made up stuff about them and pretended they were talking to me, but you could never hear them because obviously there was no microphone capturing their voices, and that worked so well that when I stopped filming, I felt very lonely for 2 days. For 2 days afterwards, I felt lonely that I've been talking to these people for 3 to 6 weeks non-stop, and I just felt lonely because I wasn't talking to myself anymore. like I am now. Anyway, so I can see we're just hitting the hour mark. We've still got an hour and 20 minutes to go with this video, but I'm going to persist because, you know, I might not do these director's commentaries all the time, but if I do, I'm already planning to create new content on this channel in the form of a podcast, like branded a podcast, and just I can't believe how many things are on YouTube where it's just an image. So say there's two examples. I can't believe that, you know, these are successful YouTube content channels where I came across a YouTube content channel for Faulty Towers, and there's a picture of the cast: Basil, Sybil, Manuel, and Polly, and it's a promo picture, and you click on the link, and it's just audio, of John Cleese doing his cast and producer and commentary of the season of Faulty Towers, and it's just his voice, and on the YouTube channel is just that promo picture for the whole 3 hours. And then for the Goon Show, for those old enough or who know of the Goons, Spike Milligan, Harry Seacombe and Peter Sellers, similar thing, just an album cover of the Goons and the radio show playing, just the audio. So it strikes me that there's an opportunity behind these directors' commentaries to produce further content using the same content, and just really tapping into the multiplier effect, and just having an image, different branding in the image saying podcast, and just giving, you know, different people another reason to tap into this channel and create a playlist called podcast. Because I've also seen it done on other content creator YouTube channels. So it's just the multiplier effect. So from a production point of view, it makes sense. Like, it took me, this particular video, now there's a few factors, so they're not excuses, but you might have heard me mention in another commentary, maybe the first one or the second one, I can't remember, but the battery for this camera only lasts barely an hour, which is fine. It's not a problem. I like working within those limitations because it makes me concentrate, and it makes me, like, I'm not just filming everything and anything. Like, I'm always conscious of how long I'm filming, and also the SD card. The original card for this camera only lasts 10 minutes, and I upgraded that 5 months ago, and this new card takes about just over an hour and 20 of content. But my plan is to hang on, so creating this video, it actually occurred over 3 days. There was the Friday morning, and I got as far as just beyond Bunnings, and Bunnings is a retail warehouse of garden and building supplies, and also it's got a trade desk as well. Now that was open during our first shutdown, thank God, because I was able to utilise renting a trolley and some other things. But it's been shut since July. But they're allowed to operate. Like, there's quite a few retail outlets in Melbourne are shut to the public in terms of, like, no foot traffic. The doors aren't open, but you can buy things online and then go pick it up in the car park. So it's contactless retail shopping. And I just wanted to go through Bunnings just to give another example of, you know, the effect of this lockdown on Melbourne. And so this, just bear in mind, this is a Friday morning, peak hour in Melbourne. Let me just check the time. When did I film this? Because this is getting back to this documentary aspect of the value of doing this content is that it's helping show life. Maybe this will prove helpful in terms of recording this footage. We're on the 9th. So this is peak hour. I'm just looking for the time. What file are we on? It's just 1 second. Sorry, I'm interrupting my own commentary. That must be really frustrating to listen to. Anyway, number 8. Number 8. Where are you? Yeah. So this is about 10 to 8. So this is prime peak hour. Actually, this will be a good topic to segue onto. This is prime peak hour traffic, usually in Melbourne, and this is one of the busiest main thoroughfares in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Cars travelling from east to west to get into the city, and the camera will swing around, and you can see that's not so abnormal that those are vacant car spaces, because this is a retail bulk buying area for retail customers, bulk buying all these stores. But as the camera works its way around now, that road is absolutely desolate, and it is 8 o'clock on a Friday morning in spring in Melbourne, and that road should be absolutely jam-packed with streaming non-stop traffic, all heading towards the city. Commuters, office workers, trades, parents driving kids to primary school, to high school. And you can see the traffic just coming through now. It's just in drips, absolute drips. It's incredible. It's just every so often I find myself catching my thoughts, catching myself. I don't talk to myself all the time, but you just remember in the busyness of either making dinner or getting milk from the shops, or vacuuming the carpet, or getting on the train to the 5 kilometre limit, and it just hits you how drastic the change has been. It's been so sustained for so long. I haven't spent a lot of time watching what's going on in other Australian cities, especially Western Australia. They're back to normal for a good 3 to 4 months now. There's crowds at the sport, there's crowds at the pubs, there's crowds. they've got cinema. We haven't got cinema like so many places around the world at the moment, but Western Australia, the Northern Territory, New Zealand. But this is just if you were to pause the video there and look up, so that's looking away from the Melbourne city. That's the eastern suburbs, and just up ahead is an incredibly busy intersection, one of the busiest in the eastern suburbs, and it's so quiet. Now, so this, as I go around into this street on the screen, the battery ran out, and I was reasonably aware of it. Subconsciously, I was aware that I've been recording for a long time. I'd taken a very scenic circular route, bending this way and back, weaving back and forwards over the train line. So I was aware at this point that I wasn't going to last the distance, because I haven't got a backup battery. I've put a deposit on one, and all I have to do is pick it up, but of course it's outside my 5 kilometres. But that's fine, because like I said before, I've said a couple of times now, working within the limitations of this equipment that I've got, as basic as it is, it still does the job. And I can't imagine carrying around heavier equipment. Now, so that was the 9th, Friday the 9th, and now this footage from here on, for the next hour, is the Saturday the 10th. And even though Melbourne has a huge reputation around the world for changing weather, 4 seasons in one day, luckily it wasn't too different. But even if it was, like, I wouldn't be too worried because you know, I'm not being too particular with this content. It's early days for this channel. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to work in 6 months or 12 months. All I do know is, that I've seen similar YouTube content channels. I've seen similar streaming of things going on and being put online. So I'm in a position where I can have a go. I know how to put it together. I'm enjoying putting it together. I actually realised this morning as I was looking at that comment from San Francisco from the bloke talking about the street art, that I realised the great thing about this particular project is that I've got something to show for what I'm doing. I've got some tangible return on investment of time and energy. And with creative projects, sometimes that can be a real factor, affecting your motivation or mindset. Is that creative people do work their guts out to create and produce art or writing or film or music for people to listen to or appreciate or read or watch, and sometimes you go through all that time and effort, and I've been through the experience where you just don't get your money back, and I've had creative projects over the last 10 years where I know I'm not getting any money back, and I'm lucky in that a lot of my projects have been very small in terms of like financial expense, but I couldn't find anything worse than producing a film and working up for 4, 5, 7 years, and finally it gets to the cinema, and some factor that you can never plan on anyway, it comes along and just smashes every single plan that you put in place. And it's all out of your control. So what I'm really enjoying about this channel in the early days is, yes, I've got the control. I'm very experienced at putting creative projects or other projects together by myself. But what I'm seeing and appreciating it's a really new feeling for me, is like I can see results already, and I'm happy with them. In terms of like just get the content, create it, put it together, edit it, publish it, get it out there, and then do another one. So I'm not too fussed about having any fuzzy edges around well-known YouTube practices or well-known recommendations or whatever. It's just a case of like get it up there, because I'm learning as I'm going. I've been a YouTube user like everyone else for years, but I've never really taken any notice of what drives growth or whatever. So anyway, this is the perfect time. COVID's just dumped this on us, and it's just a matter of what you do with your time and how you react. And I'm kind of lucky that I can do this and have a go. So there's still about an hour left. I don't want to ramble. I want to make sure that if you're listening, and even for myself, that what I'm discussing or raising is worthwhile. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stop the recording, just for my own benefit, just to gather my thoughts and make sure that I've got valuable audio to go along with the footage. Okay, so I'm back. A little 10-minute break. I've got a new cup of tea. down in North like there's no sometimes I just make cups of teas out of pure Mitcham. So I've tried to have a think about how I can spend this next hour with you very intrepid and generous listeners, because I'm going to talk as if somebody is sitting in the room with me having a conversation. But I want to respect that you are making the time to listen to this and to find out a bit behind the scenes, behind the red curtain. So I can see I still haven't quite reached the first station in this walk. There's only 2, whereas the very first video I did there was 4 stations in the 5 kilometres. And that, interestingly, this whole, even though I've owned a property in this area for 30 years, I can't really say that I've ever walked either end of the 5 kilometres each way from where I live. So I guess there's a first for everything, isn't there? I think that's one of the things I love about Melbourne is that I'm in my early 50s. I grew up in these eastern suburbs. I spent the first 24 years of my life in Blackburn, and then I was lucky enough to find this place in Blackburn, and that I've I can see something I need to fix straight away, so I'm going to pause here and do that. Okay, so that just took a couple of minutes to fix up. It's just saving now for me, because I don't want to depend on backups all the time. So I'm restarting the video now. You might see, you won't see the same footage again anyway. Yeah, I just had to add my little sound effects, video game sound effects, for getting to the station. That may or may not be a continuing feature, I don't know. But I'll just try to think of different ways to make this fun for the viewer. I'm going to assume that each viewer is seeing this for the first time. And maybe it's a little kid who's stuck in the longest car trip in the world in the future after we get a vaccine. His parents they're driving on holidays from Melbourne to Brisbane. I've done that drive, and to keep him quiet they've given him an iPad, and they've given him kid-friendly content to watch on the iPad, one of them being This Walking Life, and the little video game sound comes on every time you get to a train station or a destination. Anyway, so yeah, I was just pausing just to collect my thoughts. I'll make another cup of tea, because I want to try and, although I haven't really, the professional in me, the nerd in me says make notes, be prepared, make sure you know what you're going to talk about, and don't ramble, because I do not have the ability to be succinct or summarise briefly. That's just not in my DNA, so I've just got to learn to live with it. But there's no reason why you should have to put up with it. But so just talking off the top of my head, but I just wanted this particular commentary to sort of be around, all right, well, I'm creating this content. I've talked about that in the first video, how this channel came to be. I've talked, the second commentary was, the technical aspects, the creative choices, the filming style, the equipment, the editing software, how I'm actually putting the content together, and a bit of an insight into that. So this commentary, I want there to be a bit of value that just filling you in, or maybe verbalizing more or less for myself. Well, what am I going to do with this content? Because it's just not in my nature to sort of create something and just let it sit there. It's like, it's the reason I got into creating my script readings, a fistful of scripts. Like, what was the point of writing the script in the first place if it was, it was never going to be seen or read by anyone? And I've got to be honest, like the biggest fan of my writing, my original songs, even this content, the audience that I'm making this for is me. Because if I don't enjoy it and I'm not having fun creating it or putting it together, or well, what's the point really if I'm not enjoying it? Like, yeah, I get the whole thing about, you know, the viewer experience on YouTube, and, you know, people got to enjoy it. And then I know that there's some people, I've watched some other YouTube channels, and the creator is making a video apologising for the sound quality, the audio is not that great because they've got negative comments. Well, get stuffed. I'm going to be honest, like, get stuffed. I mean, if you're consuming YouTube content, but only on the basis that it's got to be 4K, it's got to be the best audio quality, it's got to be the latest equipment, it's got to have really schmick editing and bells and whistles, and then, well, get stuffed. Because, look, to be honest, that's not the reason. And I'm thinking of this girl in Japan. I'm thinking this poor girl, well, she's got such a great personality, and she's having a go, like all of us, she's having a go. She's the one putting in the hard work, making the content for people to enjoy. Well, if you're worried about the content, if you're worried about the audio, and I'm thinking of this girl's channel, not mine, right this very second, but I mean, if that person's really so hung up on the audio, well, surely he's missing the point of that girl's YouTube channel, which is about history, culture, living in Japan, and, you know, my content isn't as schmick as hers, but, you know, there's a style and a personality about this content. So yeah, let me just say that I don't say get stuff. Like, I acknowledge that there's some, and I've talked about this in the first and second director's commentary, that there is some issues. Yes, the camera is shaky. Yes, the audio is definitely not professional quality, but it's still audio, and there's a gritty, guerrilla, urban feel about the content that I'm publishing for your enjoyment. And look, ostensibly, it's not meant to be a smooth. I'm trying to make it a bit different to, you know, what other people might. So in the future, maybe I will have an iPhone with a gimbal. It'll be all steady. It'll be like watching the Steadicam shot in my memory's going. Considering that I've got a lifetime head for movie trivia. Here's Johnny. It's that film with Jack Nicholson. I can't believe I can't think of it. That's a bad sign. I think that's a bad sign. I better start doing more jigsaw puzzles and crosswords to keep my mental faculties sharp. Maybe it's just COVID brain, who knows. Anyway, The Shining, there you go. So it's like watching, you're not going to be watching the tracking shot in The Shining on This Walking Life. I mean, it's a living immersive experience. I really like that word, immersive. Like this is an experience channel. You are experiencing what it's like to walk from Blackburn to Mitcham. Hopefully not like this, where you sort of, well, filling in your time weaving and winding backwards and forwards over the train line and taking so long. Like, it should not take 2 hours to walk from Blackburn to Mitcham, let me tell you. And I've done that walk a few times. I've even walked from Ringwood to Blackburn, which is probably 10 k's. So let me comment on this. Every so often, I've said this before, but I haven't said it in this video yet. Every so often you'll see me, the camera will stop, and I'll train the camera on something in front of me. And what I'm thinking of very consciously now is like thumbnails. So I don't want to spend or waste time on graphic design software trying to come up with. I want everything to be really organic. So, like, I want to borrow from the footage, and I don't even want to go to the trouble. I know some YouTube content creators, their channels, that they have a separate photo session before or after creating their content, you know, specifically for a thumbnail. That's not going to be me for this channel anyway. For this channel, the thumbnail will come directly from the footage. So yeah, it's still so early in the morning, and walking into the sun. And this camera, I love the way it flares this way. I just love it. And maybe that's not for you, but it's a distinctive feature of my branding style and shooting style. So and that's another thing that helps drive the uniqueness of my content as far as I'm concerned. Now that's an edit just there. As the Filmora 9 editing software catches up, I've got a couple of quick cuts. I could segue onto filming style and edits and things, but I won't because I made some notes. The nerd in me and the professional in me, I had to make notes because I don't want to waffle for the next 50 minutes and make you suffer. I want this audio to become part of. I want it to become a podcast in this channel for people who don't want to watch the footage or might not have the ability to. Maybe they can listen to this commentary. I don't know. It just makes sense to me that these directors' commentary are perfect for podcasting purposes. I've been trying to get a podcast up and running for 4 years based on my script readings, and I still haven't done it because largely I can't afford to run a podcast channel at the moment, and I want to do it properly. It's in post-production. That's a whole other story. A fistful of scripts. V2 Audio will be that podcast. Anyway, so I was just thinking, well, if we go back to what I was chatting about in the first hour, about the kid that walks around Disneyland with his iPhone and his 5,000 subscribers getting on rides. Good luck to him, I say. Isn't that the great thing about creating this content? Is that whatever your thing is, and this is only just starting to hit me now because YouTube for me was only a platform for me to throw specific content on, and I'm talking about acting show reels. I'm talking about scouting videos for Project Waterman. I'm talking about audition tapes. You didn't know I was an actor, did you? But I was thinking about this young fellow walking around Disneyland in Florida, and people were actually requesting him in live stream, like, can you go on this ride, or is this ride open, or is that ride open? And then that naturally goes segues into, well, I was online today. I made a contact in San Francisco who's into street art, and I've offered to film our street art here, and it just makes sense, like, not just to do it for him, like just to do it because it's see, I'm in my early 50s, and graffiti to me is like for me, graffiti, skateboarding sort of fall into the same category. Like, why bother? And I hope I don't sound condescending or old. It's just, even when I was a kid, like I went to school with a kid who fell off a skateboard, and I'm not laughing at this at all. He fractured his neck, and the word was at the time that it stunted his growth, and of course, having his neck fused, he could never turn his neck, so he had to turn his whole body. And but skateboarding and graffiti, like I can't see graffiti as art. I really can't. But we do have a precinct of laneways in Melbourne, in the CBD, which are marketed internationally as attractions for international tourists, and we have had graffiti vandals travel from overseas, go be put through the courts, and been on the news for vandalising with graffiti our trains. That's not for me. But what is for me, and this is an example of how I can never say something in a short, succinct way, is that if you have a hunger for a certain video of something in Melbourne, or you have a suggestion and you want it to be filmed and you want to see it, or you think it would be good content for this channel, as you've heard described by me in these three director's commentaries now, and however many videos I've already published in the last 14 days, I really want to tap into that viewer feedback. At the moment, it takes me about 2 hours to film one long form video of between 90 and 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is the length of this one. And that's it's really nothing. 2 hours walking around, that's nothing, and that's a good day's work for me. And then at the moment it takes a full day to edit one long form video, and then it takes another couple of days to chop it up into short form videos of whether 20 or 30 minutes long. So I'm not going to have any trouble filling out this channel with content. I've already worked out that to make things efficient, it makes sense to complete the video as soon as possible, and then get it up on the YouTube platform as a premiere. And then it's like passive income, like it's working for you in the background while you can do something else. And we all know that blokes can't multitask, apparently. Sorry, I'm still drinking my tea. So if I would rather tap into that viewer creator relationship, content producer. I call myself a content producer, not content creator. So I would rather tap into that relationship with my viewers. If you want something filmed specifically, well, please go ahead, send your request, send your suggestion. I'm all for it. So let me tell you what I've got planned. So in the first hour, I was telling you about, I was telling you that this channel will not be about aimlessly wandering Melbourne streets in the city or the suburbs. Like, there's going to be a purpose behind every walking video that I publish. Whether the viewer thinks there's a purpose is something you have to tell me if you find purpose in it. But so my plan is to immerse the viewer in the Melbourne experience. Like, take the camera, walk it through Melbourne, a morning at the Melbourne Cup, going to the getting on the train, going to the Boxing Day test, taking your seat at the Boxing Day test, walking up to the Myer Christmas windows on Christmas Eve, maybe going into St Patrick's Cathedral, and on Christmas Eve, the Australian Open qualifiers in November and December, the Australian Open in January, the Formula One Grand Prix in March, the T20 if it gets up and running, and we're allowed to go in January. So there's plenty on in terms of sport and events. There's the St Kilda Festival, which is world renowned. All our theatre shows, of course, like many places around the world, are shut down. Now I'm just going to stop myself here because I'm just you may have noticed that I'm not paying any attention to the footage that I'm editing, barely. I'm daydreaming and I'm having a great time, whereas I should be concentrating to make sure this footage is schmick, because the last commentary I did I was watching the published content, and I saw that I'd failed miserably to notice a edit that I completely failed to notice, and I left it in there. But I don't think there'll be any issues with this. But anyway, so we've just passed Nuttawading Station. You'll see on the screen, or coming up. And I'm not too worried whether the audio and the footage match up, because you've either seen this area in a couple of minutes ago or it's coming up in a couple of minutes. So the reason I walked up this street, and the reason I wanted to weave from the north side to the south side of the train line, is because I figured if I just walked straight up Whitehorse Road for 5 kilometres from Blackburn to Mitcham. That would be bloody boring to watch, because the scenery is, largely the same. 3 lanes east, 3 lanes west, a lot of houses at one point, a lot of discount outlets for a good way, and then a bit more some car show. So I thought, no, I'm gonna go, when I get to Nuttawanning Station, I'm gonna cross to the south side and walk past this. So behind the fence, the hoarding, and you'll see at one point you'll see the bloke council worker going past on the grass cutter. I couldn't resist filming him. I couldn't resist it. I wanted to point the camera at him as he was approaching me, but it's early days where I still feel a little bit self-conscious with the camera. I don't want people charging at me saying, "What are you filming me for? What are you doing?" This particular morning, I was dressed in my home my home purpose overalls that I've had for about 25 years, and I had to hide this vest on. So I looked reasonably professional from a filming and blue collar point of view. I can pull that off when I want to. I'm an office boy really by description. But yeah, I wanted to go up this particular street because I wanted to again take an opportunity to demonstrate the changing face of Melbourne's suburbs. Our population is exploding. I don't know why we have to have a big population. I really don't. Our population is around nearly 5 million, and pre-COVID, we were about to overtake Sydney for the first time since Federation in 1901 as the most populous city in the country. Now, this particular site, behind the hoardings, and it's completely vacant and desolate except for the chimney, used to be a brickworks. There's a lot of industry, like in so many big cities around the world, just gone missing, closed pre-COVID, and COVID will only fasten up. Australia's got no manufacturing sector anymore. We've lost our car industry. We don't make cars here anymore, and then that affects the all the supplementary industries that supply car manufacture. But I wanted to highlight this because, as you've seen in the first hour, you've seen footage where I've walked past a commercial development where there's going to be 4 towers on one block. There's possibly going to be a retail outlet. Now that brickworks is it's just money in the bank for whoever's sitting on that land. They're just waiting for the whatever. Like, I don't know anything about land development or housing development. I don't know anything about getting plans for housing development through local government planning sectors. I don't know anything. I used to work in retail banking. That was my first job out of the bank, and I did have cause to. I had customers who were building homes, but nothing on a large scale as what you saw on that block. I really enjoyed taking advantage of that passing train. I'll do anything to make the footage more dynamic. So you can see there's going to be more development, there's going to be more congestion, more cars, and that's what I wanted to highlight by coming down this street to show that Melbourne, we're cannibalising our own city. Like, there's constantly building and rebuilding going on. There's never, maybe this is the same in other cities, but it just never seems to be a moment when the city takes a breath and goes, right, we've got to this point, let's just take a breath. But no, there's so much change going on in the last 5 years, the last 10 years, especially since the GFC, I've noticed personally, but it's just what it is, isn't it? Change is a constant, and yeah, the water's in. What's that saying? I can't remember it, so I won't embarrass myself by trying to remember it. But yeah, so that's the reason I wanted to come up this street, just to show a different aspect and show you that yeah, this channel is documenting what's in front of us, but it's not going to be that. It's not going to be this way forever or for long. Now, on that line of thinking, the level crossing works in Blackburn that took away the level crossing and dug the trench, which is 9 kilometres long. Eventually, they put in a bike path, and you can't see it from this angle. It's on the north side of the train line, but they've put in a bike path along the train line to encourage cyclists, or to shut them up. You've got a very vocal body that represents leisure cyclists in our city, and they were hammering away at the local council and Vic Roads, the body responsible for the maintenance and creation and upkeep of our roads network here in Melbourne. They were banging on about a bike path from Box Hill to Ringwood for years, and well, good on them, they got it. It's just the most awful looking strip of concrete you've ever seen, and there's no trees. There's no trees along the bike path, so I won't be taking a ride on it. And then I just wanted to mix up the footage a bit by going into the car park. There was no reason to go into the car park, but I'm just trying to give the viewer the experience that if you want to see what's on either side of the camera, because what I've noticed with a lot of walking videos, especially ones that just go down city streets, and especially the driving ones. I don't know if you've watched any driving video content where somebody sets up a camera above the dashboard of their steering wheel, and it's set and it doesn't move, and it's stuck fast just on what's exactly in front of the camera, except when the car turns around the corner. Like, you can't really see anything except what, people might be crossing the road, but unless the road is super interesting, so I don't want my content to just be purely, put the camera in front of me, walk, and that's all you see. Like, I suppose what I'd like is some feedback. Like, do you like the camera? Do you like the meandering? Do you see a purpose in it? Is it helpful? Is it frustrating? Because it does take longer for the video. Or do you get the idea that when the camera is just progressing up the street, do you get the idea that you understand what's on either side of the camera, outside of the frame, that you don't really need to see full shots of what's on the left, what's on the right? I don't know. It's early days. I'm just experimenting and testing, basically, and it's just my preference too. When I hold the camera, I'm trying not to whip it round from left to right or backwards and forwards or up and down. I'm trying to keep it very consistent, and I'm finding that I'm getting better, because although I've got a lot of experience from 4 years ago filming, like I was just filming, I would walk to a certain spot to film, and then the camera would be still. I wouldn't be moving unless I was moving very slowly. Like, I haven't really filmed like this before, so this is a little bit new. I've got to refine my technique. Maybe I've got to buy a gimbal or some something for the camera. My hands are shakier than they were 4 years ago. I know that for a fact. My family history, there is a history of Parkinson's disease in my immediate family, so who knows. Anyway, so getting back to, we've talked about requests, and we've got about just under half an hour to go, so I think I might be able to complement this video footage with reasonably intelligent, cogent, worthwhile listening content while we're going through the rest of this video, because as soon as I finish this commentary and I'm happy with this edit, I don't think I need to do anything else. And the editing software has just stopped there briefly. Now it's going. I'm going to export this file for publishing, and that'll be job done. It's nearly 5 o'clock, so that'll do me for the day. But besides the requests factor, it makes sense to fill you in on, well, besides the live sport, besides going to the cricket, going to the Melbourne Cup, besides hooking into what Melbourne offers as a city for the international tourists, for the person who is on YouTube, like genuinely punching in searches for lifestyle videos or footage of what it's like to live in Melbourne. Or that's the other reason I think my content might have something to offer is, yes, you've got Google Maps, yes, you've got websites, yes, you've got tourism websites, but this is unique footage, I think, where you don't have to watch the whole video. You can click and skip ahead. Like I can't see myself investing time into time coding the video to say, well, an hour 15 we're in Rooks Road, an hour 06 we're passing by a former brickworks site which might be developed in the future. No, I don't think I'll be doing that. I'll leave it up to the viewer. I don't want to tell the viewer how to suck eggs. Like we're all very experienced consumers of YouTube content, and we know what we want. We know why we're looking at a certain thing for a certain amount of time for a certain reason. So it's just seeing my job as a content producer just to get the content up there, produce it, and then the viewer hopefully will find what they're looking for, because I don't want to get so analytical and so caught up in planning, and I've done that before with different creative projects and even just my own personal DNAs, that I do spend, and I have spent so much time thinking about a decision, like and you spend so much time thinking about it that you're wasting time because you're not doing it. And it's been a really tricky challenge for me to negotiate in life, not just this particular project or other projects. Is like I set myself the goal with this channel, just right, I've got the idea, so let's just do it. I've got the camera, let's just do it. I've done it before. Let's just go out, film, get the content, get it edited. What's the best editing software that I can find? I managed to get that sorted out pretty quick, really. And so this was all around the last couple of days of September, and then all of a sudden by when was the first day I filmed? It was the first. I went out the 1st of October and did that first video that morning from Blackburn to Surrey Hills, and published the sucker. Just get it up there. And I'm grateful that I've got so many years behind me of experience in branding, and it didn't really take me that long to come up with a name for the channel, and then that's morphed into what I hope will be a genuine business, income producing business. Now whether it does or doesn't, who knows, time will tell, but the key thing is to have a shot, and if you can't have a go at something and test out something during lockdown, during COVID, well, what else are you going to do? Anyway, so there's about 25 minutes left of this video, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. So I'm slowly getting around to telling you, well, besides the lifestyle and the events and the sport and the arts and the tourism, the requests, the suggested videos, obviously I've got some places I'd like to film as soon as this 5 kilometre restriction ends, because I can tell you there's not many places left to film in Blackburn, because I was going to film one of my favourite walking trails, and I printed out the map to make sure it was within the 5 kilometres, and then I realised that I couldn't film it because There's no way known I could get there, film it, and get back in 2 hours. Unless I cheated. But I don't want to cheat. Like, I really respect these rules that have been set down for, for our own good. And there are elderly people in my life. I'm not going to talk too much about them, but I want to do the right thing by them in spirit, if not definitely in action. And I don't want to take any shortcuts. Anyway, so when the restrictions lift, so I've got a few destinations and walking trails in mind that I think will be well outside the rules that I've set myself the rule of no aimless walking. So it doesn't have to be down streets. Like, so in no particular order, I'll be going down to Docklands in the city. Like, not even Melbourne people really go to Docklands because it's a bit annoying to get to, because you've got to drive, no matter where you come from, you've got to drive into the city. And then it's a bit tricky to drive around Docklands, and the parking's pretty poor. But to get there by public transport and then walk around, it's dead easy. So I'll be doing one side of Docklands to the other from, let's see, I might go from north to south. There's a great walking, there's a great walk that I loved doing a couple of years ago, Brighton Beach on the Bayside, around the edge of the bay, past Sandringham Yacht Club to the suburb of Sandringham. It's a fantastic walk, and I think it'll come up so well on camera. And my favourite time to walk is early morning. So and now that we're turning from, well, we're in the middle of spring now, October, no, getting into the middle of spring. Because I'm both sides Irish, the sun isn't good for me. I don't like it, because I get sunburnt when they read out the weather forecast, the temperature. In summer I get sunburnt. So that's a really good walk. And then there's another separate video I can do of the Sandringham Marina. I like walking around the yachts and hearing the clunk of the cables from the yachts on their masts. There's another beachside walk from Elwood to Brighton Beach. My local area has a lake, a nature reserve, Blackburn Lake. And another favourite walk of mine, which is sort of, not common for people to do, I don't think, but I like doing, is from South Melbourne, walking east backwards to Richmond Station. And Richmond Station, for those who are not that familiar with the names and you can't tie up the place, but Richmond Station is how you get to the MCG on public transport. And another good walk is from the city to Richmond Station, through the tennis precinct to Richmond Station. So I'm not going to be short of ideas for content. And I could probably film 2, maybe 3 at 2 hours. I've definitely filmed 6 hours of content a week. Now this will be a good point for me to just mention that I see this channel. It's not going to be the only channel, is what I'm trying to say. That I see opportunities. COVID has been a really strange time for me, because I just see opportunities everywhere, which is weird, because I wouldn't call myself a hugely ambitious individual or driven individual or even motivated, but that's not to say that I'm lazy or anything. What I'm trying to say is that because of my personal situation the last 5 years, being a carer for my parents, well, COVID has kind of been a circuit breaker and really put a full stop on that caring situation. And I'm not going to be talking about that at all, except for saying for what it is. So when COVID came screaming into view in March, and it didn't bother me too much because I was already outside of that those societal cultural norms of having a job, 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. That just wasn't my life for the last 5 years. So it seemed to me that I didn't really feel too panicked or anxious about COVID suddenly produced some anxiety, of course, with regards to family and parents' health. But anyway, so it just seemed to me that it's like the GFC, and that took some getting used to, because but I don't think that definitely didn't affect the population the way COVID has, and globally especially. But like so many things have been upended with people working from home, kids having to learn online, not going to school for months and months, no socialising, everything shut down. Like I'll never forget the feeling in the pit of my stomach when I was very cynical. I think a lot of us were cynical, but personally, I won't generalise, but I will say personally, when COVID was getting really repetitive and annoying in the news for me through January and February, and it was just every day there was just a mention of coronavirus and COVID-19. It was sort of like that gossipy topic that people are talking about, that you just don't want any part of because it's just a nuisance, or it's just but there was definitely that. The moment for me was when it got real was the Formula One Grand Prix. The first Grand Prix of the year got cancelled here, and it was already set up. Like all the teams were here. They were already practicing right up until the moment it was called off. Like it was just unreal. Like so many things that have happened since, it was unreal. Like it was just unimaginable that. Well, I mean, from a practical point of view, that the city could go to all this effort to set up the Grand Prix, all the teams were here, they were flying, and yes, there was talk about this virus from originating in China, and it was starting to affect people, and I remember watching the news, and Lewis Hamilton was saying, I just can't believe we're even going to race. And I was, it just struck you as an overreaction, and even when it was cancelled, you were thinking, well, but yeah, it got very real, didn't it? And this was around the second week of March, and there was news articles, and I've still got copies, that they really drove the point home about what was going on in Italy, in Lombardy region, and it just got really real. And but as things started shutting down, and like from a really macro point of view, I wasn't really too bothered, because I've already lived that life of uncertainty and anxiety about income and what does the future hold, and life being quite different to everyone else's life, or what is the type of life you're supposed to have when you're in your early 50s. So I've forgotten where this topic is going, but opportunities. No, I just have for as Melbourne went into its first lockdown, which wasn't very harsh by comparison to what we're in now, I just saw all these opportunities. Now I did have another business idea which I researched and investigated and put a lot of time into between the third week of March and the second week of July. Like I really went hell for leather investigating these ideas, because I just saw opportunities, and the numbers didn't stack up. Two reasons I didn't go ahead with that. It was called pop-up catering merchants and pop-up catering outlets. I was going to I was investigating as we look onto Whitehorse Road here. Those lanes, 3 lanes east, 3 lanes west, they should be nearly bumper to bumper with traffic travelling at 40 to 50 k's, well under the speed limit because there's so many cars. And there should be kids on that bridge going to school, passing me, and parents. There's a primary school on my left, St John's Catholic School of Mitcham, and I stopped there deliberately to film that. That is just unbelievable. That peak hour, this is now getting up to maybe 8:30 on a Friday morning, spring in Melbourne, no holidays, no tradies days off, and that's just unbelievable. That bus is empty. That's a smart bus that goes from Melbourne Airport through the eastern suburbs out to Frankston on the most southern side of the city, suburban area. I mean, still, I'm watching this now. I'm living in this environment, and I'm watching that footage. And there's my shaky hands on the footbridge. I thought I was going to drop the camera for some reason on the road off the top of the footbridge. But it's just, and I'm sure wherever you're listening from, whether you're in Australia or New Zealand, or God bless you in Perth, where everything's normal almost, or you're in, I know South Africa's had a lot of terrible problems adapting to the restrictions. Canada's been very quiet, but they're in a second wave. It's just I still catch myself thinking, I can't believe the change. I can't believe how quiet it is. I can't, where are all the people? But I'll just finish off what I say before that topic of where are all the people. But opportunities, and I've felt that all the way through since March, and even when I put all the effort I registered those business names, and I found the numbers didn't stack up, and then I realised that I definitely would have to, I couldn't do it all by myself. That was a huge thing when I realised. And then, of course, I saw different parts of the hospitality industry adapting to how things were evolving through April, May, June into July. But I still thought, well, that wasn't a waste of time, because that actually got my brain going. After being a carer for 5 years, I the short story is, it really helped get my brain going. It gave me something to focus on. It gave me something to really get my teeth stuck into. It really took my mind into different territories, and I enjoyed I went physically out into all the shopping strips in the eastern suburbs, looking at empty storefronts and leasing rates, and talking to commercial real estate agents, and just enjoying that factor of really using my brain again. And it didn't really feel like a failure or a defeat. It was just kept me occupied productively, mentally. But I think I see opportunities for this to become a sort of a brand, an umbrella brand. This life being the umbrella brand, and then underneath that, this walking life, this public transport life, and that will be a platform and an outlet for me to publish and distribute on YouTube all the footage that I shot 4 years ago with the train level crossing removal works in Blackburn. All the knowledge that I've built up about that, and then there's an opportunity for me to continue filming again around Melbourne's now into creating its first metro underground network. So we're going to have a metro train line going underneath Melbourne, underneath the Yarra River, from north to south, creating new train lines in our city loop, creating more capacity. So that just tips right back into all the experience I had 4 years ago, the character, the storyline I haven't quite worked out, but I think I know where I'm going to take it with that character, to explain his 4-year absence from his the industry that he loves so much. the third channel will be This Property Life, and that's going to be a channel, and I've already started filming, but I haven't yet started editing and publishing. And that channel is going to tap into something a bit more substantial in terms of the real estate sector, the finance sector, the property sector. It'll be residential and commercial property, and you've already seen me filming and heard me talking in this commentary about the property developments in Blackburn and the new development with the 4 towers. So I'm going to be showcasing that, because what I've realised is, and even though to me it's pie in the sky stuff, when I watch these YouTube influencers in their channels saying, I make $80,000 a year, I make $80,000 a month, I make 7 figures a year. There's people in Southeast Asia making a very comfortable living, thank you very much, off YouTube income. To me, that's just like, that's Emperor's New Clothes stuff territory for me. To me, that just doesn't seem real. That I could set out to achieve the same thing. It just doesn't seem, but I can tell you that I've set out, over the last 15 years, I've set out on far, not crazy is the wrong word, far more adventurous and ambitious and ideas that have had far less commercial substance about them. So, but I acknowledge that YouTube is the only social media platform, and I did a lot of reading last year about social media and the psychology behind it and how it's been set up. There's an opportunity there to, if I can, all you got to do is create the content, and then if it's really true that you can make a better than normal living off YouTube content, well, here I am. So we're heading into the last 15 minutes of this video, and we've finally reached our destination. There's no way known it should take 2 hours 20 minutes to get from Blackburn to Mitcham, not just in peak hour but in COVID peak hour. But look, it's about, giving somebody who has never lived here, somebody who is thinking of taking a gap year from their job. That's not kids, but somebody who's thinking of, I've met someone in London, I'm going to marry them and live in Melbourne, and it's a person who's very family orientated, a bit anxious about. Like, I tell you, when they took away the level crossing at Mitcham, I'm very jealous. They gave them trees. It was the most ordinary looking area, the worst looking station you've ever seen, and now look at it. It's sculptured like a reality TV a reality TV renovation program. I just can't believe Mitcham got this makeover, and in Blackburn we got dudded. We got absolutely dudded. They took away our trees and our landscaping. Anyway, it's a whole other topic. So I just see the third channel being This Property Life. The idea is to provide similar footage where I don't have to go to the real estate agent and say, look, I see you got a property up for auction. Can I be a producer of video content where you pay me to go out and do some filming of the local area? So I don't need to do that. I don't even need to get the permission. So what that channel will be doing, I'll be going to a property that's up for sale in my local area, and I'll be filming a walk from the property to the train station to demonstrate how easy it is to get to public transport in this local area, and that's it. Now I don't have to charge for that service because YouTube will pay me, apparently. So and it doesn't matter that I'm telling you this, my business idea, because one thing I learned about 10 years ago is that you can have an idea, but someone can try and copy it, but no one can execute that idea and that business. You can try and copy me, but you can't execute it the way I can. I'm in my early 50s. I've got 15 to 20 years worth of experience behind me in trying and failing to be an entrepreneur or a small business owner or a freelancer or whatever it is. Like someone can have a go, but they can't have a go with the knowledge and experience and the grazed knuckles and the scabs and the setbacks that I've had. So that's I feel confident that, and with 10 minutes to go, if I look at the library of published content so far in this channel, I'm pretty pleased because I see a return on investment of time. Whether it's worthwhile investment of time, well, it's hard to say at this point. But I mean, what's the alternative? Just sit at home and watch other people's YouTube videos. And I can tell you the selection of movies on demand on the commercial TV channels, and I'm talking to you, SBS and ABC Australian TV, it's left a lot to be desired. So there you go. So I suppose for the last few minutes of this video, and I'm trying to think of, I'm talking as if somebody's been with me the whole 2 hours and 20 minutes, that I want to make sure, it's worth listening to. That's how I'm attacking this. And it's as much for myself as well, that why did I film this? I could have stopped at the courtyard of the station up there, but I thought, well, no, why not? What's the harm in walking around? And again, this is peak hour. Don't forget that we're still in peak hour. It's a weekday morning. It's about 9:15, and that train is pretty much empty. And there should be kids on that train. There should be so many cars wheeling through the streets. That's a storage facility. I don't know how popular they are outside of Australia, but they're everywhere in Melbourne and around. People just hoard stuff. Who would have thought you could make money out of hoarding? People who don't know how to throw things away. No, they've got a lot of uses, those places. So, and that's just looking up the street. Now, I'm just going to briefly talk that I'm interested in any feedback. If anyone has been listening to this point, and now that the camera is pointing into the sun, when I was filming this, and specifically when I was walking up the street with the huge vacant block where the brickworks used to be, and I realised that I was walking into the sun. Now, one thing that I don't like is filming my shadow. I hate it. Like, I don't want my shadow appearing in the frame, in the footage. To me, that just yells amateur. But there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to be too anal about trying to edit it out. And then it makes it that gritty guerrilla urban feel, handheld feel, that you're getting a real, immersive experience as if you were walking these streets. But once I realised that I was filming into the sun, as it was happening, I was pretty worried actually, because to the naked eye, it's really hard to see up the street into the sun with the naked eye. And I don't wear sunglasses, so I was making a very strategic decision, not conscious, strategic, to cross the street where I was filming at an angle. I tried holding the camera behind me as I was walking, and that didn't work. I was really worried that what I was filming was, and putting time into filming, was actually quite useless. But again, I'm so thrilled at the footage. The quality of the footage that comes out of this camera is, it's a really high quality for me. Now, I'm not a technical person. I'm not. I've worked on film sets and on film projects with guys, and all they do is they're cinematographers or director of photography, or I used to be really good friends with a young guy who did a fine arts degree in photography, and I've never been a technical person. And for me, does the camera have a battery in it? Does the battery have life? Point and shoot. That's that's as technical as I get. So when I finally finished filming, and this is day 3, by the way, this is a third morning I went back because, again, the battery ran out before I got to Mitcham station this time. But I was so thrilled to see the colours, again, the quality of the footage that this camera was generating, and the colours, they just pop out for me. But again, I'm not the viewer. I would really like if anyone can provide some feedback about what they think of the quality of the video footage, in terms of, never mind the shake, how the camera's shaking, but the quality of the color, the quality of the this Filmora 9 editing software does have rendering capacity to. I could play around with the color if I chose to, but yeah, as you've heard me say, hopefully, but I'm going to say it again, is like, it's just, I just want to create the footage, capture it, edit it, publish it, upload it, get it out there. That's the whole thing. Now, I never bought this camera for video purposes. I just didn't have a camera about 6 years ago, and they were on sale, and I, being the tight ass that I am, I went for the one that was on sale. I don't remember asking any questions about it. I suppose that's the advance of technology these days, isn't it? So I didn't worry too much about filming the station or the interior, but it made sense to stop off here. You can see that this station's had the same treatment. Used to run across the road with a level crossing, and now they've dropped it under it. And I'm going to stop as I'm filming and walking. I'm going to stop right here. This is where the old train line was, believe it or not. That's literally, I'm standing on the old train tracks right there, and they dropped the train line under the road right there. It drops down about 9 or 10 metres. And the traffic flows, and up ahead is the Mitcham Hotel, where I've got great memories of a couple of summer afternoons there in my early 20s. Didn't go to the Mitcham pub too often, but in getting back to being a carer with the parents, had had a few meals there with them, but the last couple of years I've been going up there as a treat for myself. Do a very nice grilled salmon, if you like that sort of stuff. So here I wasn't too worried about rushing to finish the video. I was just interested in just showing the lay of the land, and there's the car park, and again, peak hour, we're getting up to 9 o'clock, and there were some kids on this morning. This was Monday morning, and kids went back to school this week, and I had to be very conscious and careful of capturing kids, pointing the camera away from them, because I don't want to be flagged on YouTube as filming kids and not doing the right thing. And so we're getting into the last 3 minutes of this walking life, Blackburn station to Mitcham station. And I've got a knack for branding, and I have no trouble coming up with ideas for branding, or I really enjoy editing the footage. I like the look and feel so far. Now this will probably evolve organically. There's who's to say that it's always going to look this way, the titles and the credits, but for the time being, it does the job, and it looks professional to me. Like, when I think of YouTube content, like, it's not film for the cinema, and it's not content that you're going to watch on a commercial TV station. There's no thousands of hours of development going into a script, or production design, or it is what it is. But at the same time, just because it's content for YouTube, like, why can't it have schmick opening credits? Why can't it have theme music? Why can't it have, well, like other YouTube clips, it doesn't have too many funny sounds, but why can't, why can't it be, why can't it have its own personality is what I'm trying to say. Now, at this point when I was filming, I was actually a bit over it, I'll be honest, and at this point, as I was walking south across the courtyard, I'd actually forgotten, and it was only dumb luck that I remembered when I turned around and walked north across the courtyard, as you'll see me turn around. I'd forgotten how I was going to end this video. It's just dumb luck that I remembered. I was so happy that I remembered, and that it was organic. And I want to repeat that and drive that home again, that these videos, yes, there's a bit of wandering around. Yes, there's a bit of, like, there doesn't seem to be much planning. But that's a purpose and an intent and a creative choice that I've made, that I want these videos to be organic. I want them to evolve in real time as if you were there with me. So yeah, thank goodness I turned thank goodness I turned right at Albuquerque, and the sun was perfect. Like, I just love this sunlight. This station, why did they give Mitcham a great new station like this, and Blackburn, they just they just left us out in the cold. So thanks for listening. Thank you for any feedback. I hope you enjoyed this commentary, and please give me some feedback if you got some. Like and subscribe and comment, hit the notification bell, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Welcome to Project Melbourne Metro Underground Rail, the site of the new Parkville station. If you come with me, we'll start right away. Waterman, yes, I'm transport consultant for the government. It's my job to act as a liaison between STM, Asia Pacific, and the government of Victoria, and the Transport Minister in particular, to advise on timelines and make sure that everything to do with the contract that's been awarded to this firm, that the timeline's being met. So it's my pleasure to welcome you today as a visitor and investor from interstate and overseas. We'll be taking a short tour of the site, so if you come with me, we'll start right now. That ends our tour for today. We hope you enjoyed this insight into state government's preparations for how your investment money is being spent here at the site of the proposed new Parkville station as part of the Melbourne Metro Underground Rail project. My name's Waterman. If you have any more questions, you can contact me via the Victorian State Government Department of Transport, STM Asia Pacific Construction.